Have you ever stopped to wonder how we went from small, wandering bands of hunter-gatherers to the massive, sprawling cities we live in today? It wasn't a sudden change. It was a revolution, but not one fought with swords and shields. This was the agricultural revolution, and it fundamentally reshaped human existence. Today, we're going to dive deep into how farming literally changed the world. Before about 12,000 years ago, every single human on Earth lived a nomadic lifestyle. Your day-to-day life revolved around finding food. You'd hunt animals, you'd gather edible plants, berries, and nuts. When the food in one area ran out, your group would pack up and move on. It was a life of constant motion, dictated by the seasons and the availability of resources. Life was tough, and populations were small. You couldn't support many people when you were always on the move. Then, something incredible happened. In different parts of the world, almost simultaneously, people started to experiment. In the Fertile Crescent, a region in the Middle East, they began cultivating wild grasses like wheat and barley. In China, it was rice and millet. In the Americas, it was corn, beans, and squash. This wasn't a single moment. It was a slow, gradual process of trial and error over thousands of years. People started to realize that if they saved some seeds and planted them, they could have a more reliable food source right where they were. This simple idea, planting seeds, was the spark that ignited a monumental shift in human society. For the first time, we didn't have to follow our food. We could make our food come to us. This led to the single biggest change: sedentism. People stopped wandering and started to settle down in one place. Why move when you have fields of grain growing right outside your door? These first settlements were tiny, just small villages. But they were permanent. People built more durable homes out of mud, stone, and wood. And with a stable food supply, something amazing happened. Populations began to grow. A food surplus, having more food than you need to eat right away, meant that not everyone had to be a farmer. This is where things get really interesting. With a food surplus, society could afford to have specialists. Some people could focus on making better tools, becoming blacksmiths or stonemasons. Others could focus on crafting pottery to store the extra grain. Some became weavers, creating textiles for clothing and trade. This is the birth of the division of labor. Instead of everyone doing the same job, finding food people could now specialize in different skills. This specialization drove innovation at an incredible pace. New technologies emerged directly because of agriculture. The plow was invented to turn the soil more efficiently, making farming more productive. Irrigation systems, like canals and ditches, were developed to bring water to the fields, allowing people to farm in drier areas and control their water supply. The wheel, which we often associate with transport, was likely first used for pottery and then adapted for carts to transport agricultural goods. All these inventions made life easier and farming more successful, creating a positive feedback loop of growth and innovation. As villages grew larger and more complex, new social structures were needed. In a small hunter-gatherer band, decisions could be made collectively. But in a village of hundreds or even thousands, that's not so easy. Hierarchies began to form. Leaders or chiefs emerged to manage the surplus, organize large-scale projects like building irrigation canals, and settle disputes. This was the beginning of government and social classes. Some people, through control of land or food, gained more power and wealth than others. And with stored grain and valuable goods came a new problem: security. Settlements needed to be defended from raiders. This led to the construction of walls and the formation of a warrior class, people whose specialized job was to protect the community. The concept of property and ownership became deeply ingrained. This piece of land is mine. This harvest is ours. These were brand new ideas for humanity. Farming didn't just change how we lived. It changed our relationship with the natural world. Hunter-gatherers saw themselves as part of nature. Farmers started to see nature as something to be controlled and managed for human benefit. They cleared forests to create fields, diverted rivers for irrigation, and domesticated animals. We began to actively shape the environment to suit our needs, a practice that has had profound consequences, both good and bad, that we are still dealing with today. The domestication of animals was the other half of the agricultural coin. It wasn't just about plants. Animals like goats, sheep, cattle, and pigs were no longer just hunted. They were raised. They provided a steady supply of meat, milk, and wool. Larger animals like oxen were used as draft animals, pulling plows and carts, which was a massive boost to productivity. It was like having a living engine. Of course, this revolution wasn't a perfect utopia. Early farmers had a less varied diet than their hunter-gatherer ancestors. Relying on a few staple crops meant they were vulnerable to famine if a harvest failed due to drought or disease. Studies of early agricultural skeletons show they were often shorter and less healthy, suffering from diseases related to nutritional deficiencies. Also, living in close quarters with other people and with domesticated animals created new health challenges. Diseases could spread much more easily in a dense population. Many of the infectious diseases we know today, like measles and smallpox, actually originated in domesticated animals and jumped to humans because we started living so close to them. But despite these challenges, the agricultural model was unstoppable. The ability to produce a food surplus and support a larger, more complex society was too powerful an advantage. Agricultural societies expanded, and over thousands of years, they gradually displaced or absorbed most of the remaining hunter-gatherer populations around the world. From these first agricultural settlements, towns grew. From towns, the world's first cities emerged in places like Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and China. With cities came writing, invented to keep track of trade and stored grain. With cities came organized religion, monumental architecture like temples and pyramids, and the formation of states and empires. Every aspect of our modern world, our jobs, our governments, our technologies, the very fact that you and I can have this conversation through a screen can be traced back to that moment when our ancestors first decided to plant a seed in the ground. It was a gamble that completely altered the trajectory of our species. It set us on the path to civilization, with all its triumphs and its troubles. The agricultural revolution wasn't just about food. It was about the birth of a new way of being human. It was the moment we traded the freedom of the wanderer for the security of the settlement, and in doing so, laid the foundations for the world we know today. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the smallest changes can have the most revolutionary consequences. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey back in time fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the history that shaped our world. See you in the next one.